x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, now if I would say factor that, what would you do? 4 and 3. Okay, now, we all know 4 and 3. We all say 4 and 3 because that's the two numbers. Multiply to 12, add to 7. Okay? But you don't just write down 4 and 3, right? You make it what? X plus 4, x plus 3, right? Okay, put it in parentheses. Turn that trinomial into two binomials. Okay? And whether you realize it or not, every time you have one of these trinomials and it says factor, it goes from one trinomial to two binomials. Okay? With an x squared as the lead every single time. Okay? Makes sense? Another one, and this is the kind of the bigger one for the day. X squared minus 25. Same logic. Multiplies to negative 25, adds to 0. What are your two numbers? Multiplies to negative 25. X minus 5. X plus 5. Okay. Every single time you would see this, you would unsquare, you almost put an X in each one of these, 5 in each one, and opposite signs, right? Now, that's the one we're going to focus on, or at least to start here, okay? This one right here. Okay, x squared minus 25, x minus 5, x plus 5. X squared minus 36 would be what? X minus 6. X plus 6. X squared minus 49 would be what? X minus 7, x plus 7, good. What about, let's see, x squared minus y squared? What would that be?
X minus y, x plus.
Good, x minus y. X plus y, okay? Now, whenever you see these, and it's just variables, like a lot of these slides, it would always almost give you a little line like this, right? Okay, it would be some kind of formula and saying, you know, this is called difference of squares, right? Remember that? Okay. They would say difference of squares, x squared minus y squared goes to x minus y, x plus y. Basically, it's how you read it and how you learn it from there. All right, so you have something being squared here in the first place, a minus in the middle, something being squared in the second place. That turns into two binomials where you unsquare the x, unsquare the y, 1 minus, unsquare x, unsquare y, 1 plus. Okay, kind of see that? Now, all of this you already have been taught / should know. Okay, so this isn't what we're doing today. Everybody got all that stuff? Because it's going to go bye-bye in 3, 2, 1. Ah. What we're going to learn today with special factoring is called sum and difference of cubes. Sum and difference of cubes. Okay, so we're going to learn two techniques today. And we're going to start it off with that last example where we had x squared minus y squared. Okay, now since these are cubes, now they're going to be x cubes and y cubes, or numbers being cubed, or numbers and variables. We're going to get to all that, okay? So this here, let me move this down just a little bit. So that's what you're given. You're given x cubed plus y cubed. You're going to factor that, okay? And when you factor it, it's a little tricky. But here's what it factors to. x plus y, x squared, minus xy, plus y squared. That's what it turns into. Okay. You take x cubed, y cubed, x plus y, x squared, minus xy plus y squared. Eventually you'll have to have that memorized. You'll also eventually have to have the difference one memorized. And before we do that, or before we talk about how, I want to show you the difference one also. So the other way, x cubed minus y cubed, also given to you, or what you will be given, and you turn into x minus y, x squared, plus xy, plus y squared. Alright? Now, look at the similarities. Both times you're given a binomial of stuff being cubed. See that? Two terms, binomials. Both times you turn it into a binomial times a trinomial. Okay? Both times x, y, x squared, xy, y squared. X, y, x squared, xy, x squared. See that? Your last sign both times is what? Plus. The only thing different is these two signs, or these four signs rather. Whatever sign I give you goes in the binomials. See that? Minus here. Whoops. Ah, crap. How do I undo? Thank you. Minus. The next sign is your opposite signs. Okay. Now that's kind of your blueprint. Okay, that's not how these. That's kind of your blueprint on how you're supposed to factor these. You're going to have two terms. Both times something will be being cubed. Your goal and your job is to figure out what that something is first. Okay, and it's really easy to figure out. After you do figure it out, you put each one of those in the binomial, and then you fill in the trinomial according to your binomial. Okay? It sounds messy. I know that. Alright, but it's not as bad as what I'm trying to make it, what I'm probably making it sound like. Okay? Ready to see one? Good. Okay, remember, this is what you're given. You're given something being cubed plus something being cubed, or something being cubed minus something being cubed. You turn it into these binomials times trinomials, okay? So, the first one, x cubed plus 64. Oh, go away. Now where am I painting this? Whoops. There we go. Okay. So x cubed plus 64. First term, what's being cubed? The x, right? X is being cubed here. See that? Okay, makes sense? So that's what goes into the first part of your binomial, is x. Sign I gave you is a plus, so the next sign is a plus. Okay? Now, this is the part that might take a little bit of legwork. What's being cubed here? Now, 64 is what's there. Okay? See that? 64 is what is there, but there's something being cubed there. Hmm? No, because 0 cubed would be 0. 1 cubed would be 1. No, that'd be huge. If it was going to be 64 cubed, that number would be 262,144. Not that big, it's just 64. What's 1 times 1 times 1? 1. What's 2 times 2 times 2? What's 3 times 3 times 3?
27.
What's 4 times 4 times 4? 64! So what is being cubed here? 4. Because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Now, you're going to have all those kinds of numbers, okay? And once you start practicing these and we see them, you're going to realize that there's only about 6 or 7 that I use. Guess what? It's 1 through 7, okay? So if you don't know, easy to figure out. Take this little thing they call a calculator and go. 1 times 1 times 1, enter. 2 times 2 times 2, enter. 3 times 3, until you get that number. In this case, it's 4. Okay? Now, this is this part up here. See that? Now we got to fill in this part. So, to fill in this part, you use this first part. You use the binomial to fill in the trinomial. Okay, you got 3 parts and 2 signs. The first part, you take whatever x is and you square it. So you take the first term in the binomial, square it. First term in the binomial is x. Square x, you get what? X squared. Done. What's the next sign? Minus. Good. Okay. Minus up here. Since there was a plus here, your second sign is always the opposite of the first. All right. Now, xy means to do what? Starts with an M. Multiply. So multiply these together. So 4 times x is what? 4x. Your last sign is always what? Plus. Last term. Square y. Y in this case is what? 4. Square 4. 4 times 4? 16. And that's that part. And that's your answer. Now, if you were going through, and here's why this works the way it does, if you were going through and multiplying these together, what should you get? That. Remember, factoring is undoing foiling. Foiling is undoing factoring. Okay? Any questions on that? Make sense? Second one. Now this is where it's going to get a little confusing. Your letters mixed jobbing it up, okay? The book can throw X's first, they can throw Y's first, it doesn't, A's, B's, doesn't matter. You worry about what is being done up here. So you're given y cubed minus 216. Uncube the first one. So uncube y cubed. What's that? Uncube y cubed. Y. Now this time the sign they give you is a negative sign, so your sign is a negative. Good. 216. 6. 6 times 6 times 6. And that's your binomial. Now your trinomial comes from that. Square the y. So y times y. Y squared. Okay. Now this is probably the hardest part of this. Your next sign is the opposite of this, which is a what?
Plus.
It's going to be a plus. Okay. Now, your next step is to multiply y and 6 to get 6y, right? Do not include this negative, this minus sign in that multiplication. Do not. Okay? Even though I've taught you your signs ahead, you typically go, which they typically do. This is one of those cases where they don't. So just keep this as a plus and do 6 times y to give you 6y. Okay? That's probably the hardest part of this, right there. Your last sign is a plus, and then square 6 to get 6. Okay? Now, we're going to get a little tougher. Ready? Sometimes they'll give you more than one thing per term. You just handle it the exact same way. You uncube each part of it, and then when you go to your next steps, you include it in there. Okay? So, 125x cubed. Uncube 125, what's that? Think about it. Ends in a 5. So chances are it's 5, yeah. Alright, so 5. Uncube x cubed. X. So 125x cubed turns into 5x. Make sense? Next sign is a minus. Uncube 8, you get what? 2. And that's your binomial. Now you do your trinomial. So square 5x. So 5x times 5x. 25x squared. Good. Your next sign is a plus. 5x times negative 2. Or sorry, fold up. So sorry. 5x times 2. 10x. So even else look it up. Your last sign is always a plus. 5x times or 2 squared. Done. Okay, and like I said, as you practice these and as we keep working towards these, you guys are going to realize there's only like 6 or 7 numbers that I use. As far as once you get down to where you factor them like this. Okay, you'll see in a minute that I can use some other numbers, but there's ways around that. Okay. So the fourth one down here then. Okay, I'm letting you guys take the lead on this one. Uncube 27, what is it? Next. Next.
1x squared.
Easy. Keep your variables the same.
Oh, no.
Consistent.
Oh, no,
9y squared. Okay. Is it a big deal? Actually, yeah, it can be. Okay, because you'll see in a little bit. I could do variable and variable. All right, so make sure you keep your variables lined up. All right, little thing, but important. Next.
minus 12y.
Next.
Plus 16.
Yeah. Yeah. 2x cubed plus 432. All right. So let's start her off. What times what gives you 2? Nothing. Good. Nothing. Nothing whole at least. Okay. I'm sure there's something that does. It's probably like, 1 point or point something ugly. We don't want to deal with that. So, can we do it to 2x cubed plus 432? No, because in order to do it, you have to be able to uncube everything, and we can't uncube things right now. But this is a 2, and 432 is what? Starts with E. Even. Which means it's divisible by 2. Which means since this is an expression, we can factor out a 2. So you factor out a 2. Leaves you with x cubed plus, check this, 216. Now, if you look back at your notes that you all are so expertly taking, you'll notice you've already done this one, except I think it was a minus. So now, we're going to take this one step further. First, you got to factor out a common factor. Then you have to do your sum of 2 cubes. Okay, make sense? So now, you start it with the 2 each time, because remember that GCF has to tag along. Okay? But after you get that GCF, all you do is the exact same thing we did the first 4 problems. Uncube x cubed, which is x. This sign is a plus, so this next sign is a plus. Uncube 216, which is 6. And then set up your trinomial. X squared minus 6x plus 36. And that's your answer. Okay. So it's no different than when you did just this, except now you have that common factor of 2 that you took out from it, okay? Make sense? Alright, I'm going to change that last one real quick. Yeah, I know, I'm excited about it too. I'm going to make it 375x cubed y minus 81y to the 4th. Yeah. Okay. Chances are there's nothing that you can do what times what gives you 375. You can't uncube 375. Okay. You can't uncube 81. But I'm not going to waste your time with primes, which means it can be done. Your job is to figure out what to take out. Okay. So, here's what I recommend. I would take your calculator. 375 divided by 2, 187.5. That doesn't help us. 375 divided by 3, 125. Now, here's the trick, and here's where this gets repetition going in. You will learn to recognize the perfect cubes 1 through 6. 1, 8, 27, 64, 125, 216. And once you hit one of those numbers, like we just hit 125, that's your signal that you found the number you need to factor out. Okay? Now, to be sure, then you check the second one. So 81 divided by 3 is 27. So you for sure now know that you need to take out a 3. Okay, because that's going to give you 125 here and 27 here. Okay, makes sense? So even though neither one of these has, like up here with the 2, okay, that one's pretty cut and dry. You take the 2 out, done. Down here, it may not be so cut and easy to see. Okay, just start dividing. 1, 2, or 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, usually they don't go too big. Now, I changed this to be x cubed y minus 81y to the 4th. So right now, as it stands, it's 125 x cubed y minus 87y, or 27y to the 4th. Can you uncube y to the 4th? They're not like terms. So you can't do this y minus this y and make it y to the 3rd. That's not a thing. But you do have a y in each one, right? So just like we took a 3 out, you can take a y out. That was a terrible y. Let's try that again. There, much better. Okay? And make it 125 x cubed minus 27 y cubed. You'll have a few like this on homework, okay, that you got to take a variable at also. Okay, so I want you ready for it. And then go one step further with these two going on. Okay, so 3y, 5x minus 3y. Uncubing each. Now this is where it gets a little also kind of messy because you got multiple terms going on with each term. So square 5 is 25. X times x is x squared. Your next sign is a plus, always the opposite of what's here. 5x times 3y. What's, Well, there you go, 15. 5 times 3, x, y. Last sign is always plus. 3y times 3y squared. This last one here is about as hard as they come.